Hello and welcome to this episode of How to Be a Great GM. We are of course looking at tone. That amazing ability for us to conjure up using a few simple techniques the sense of evil and foreboding, or perhaps merriment and enjoyment, or perhaps something a little bit more heroic. Either way, this session we're going to look at the three main components which, in my opinion, will help you create the most amazing different types of tone in your game, and we're going to look at whether or not you should change your tone in a single session. So let's kick off. What exactly is tone? You might have heard about people talking about tone, and perhaps you have a smattering of an idea of what tone is. But if you were to put it into words, what would you say? Is humor a tone? Is dark a tone? Is majestic a tone? In my opinion, they're all tones. Tone really just describes the feeling or the general atmosphere that the players and yourself will be experiencing during a particular set of or session of tone. So if you have a horrific tone where everything around every corner is preparing to strike and you're not entirely sure where that murderer is he behind me? He's behind me. Is it perhaps humorous, in which case he's behind me holding a wet fish? Is it perhaps more majestic and perhaps it's more heroic, in which case we are off to slay the dragon? Tone is entirely up to you, and as we've been unpacking settings, there go my notes, as we've been unpacking settings, we've been looking at how tone starts to change our opinion of the setting. In high fantasy, we saw how you could have a very high magic tone, or you could have a very low magic tone. In science fiction, we spoke about this tone of optimism, or tone of grittiness, or grime. And there are a whole lot others. And excuse me looking down, but there is humorous, as I have said. There is sad. And I'm not talking the melancholic depression of an overacting character. I'm talking about genuinely sad moments. Moments where the heroes have not succeeded, and where perhaps they have let down the quest that they are on, and it has caused someone to die. I am also talking about hectic tones, where everything is moving and going, and what are you doing? And you've got to run because the ceiling's collapsing and everything is about to cave in, and if you don't make that decision right now, what are you doing? I'm talking about a hectic tone. You could also have a sick tone, where you are literally repulsed by the words that are oozing out of the mouth of the narrator, or that your fellow characters are sticking their hands or their fingers or stepping in. So tone really allows you to explore a whole range of emotive spaces, which will just elevate your game out of the ordinary. You walk around the corner and the man wearing a mask is standing there. He raises his dagger, which is covered in blood, and screams at you. That's not tone. That's called monotone. And whether you are a public speaker, whether you are a scriptwriter, whether you are a GM, if you are monotone, unfortunately you need to work on your voice first before you can ever even think about becoming a great GM. You simply are not engaging. Monotone is death. Sorry. It's very sad. No, it's not. Anyway, so once we've identified tone, how do we establish it? Well, I've been showing you how to do it all along in this video. And there are a few things that you can use. First up is language. Now, there's a wonderful moment in that wonderful Disney movie called The Little Mermaid, where Ursula, the octopus hybrid witch queen of the sea, talks to Ariel about the importance of body language, and she does all sorts of wonderful stuff. It's a great moment. Body language is as important as the words you use to describe your tone. So yes, there are other videos out there that talk about tone in terms of your words. using dark words and lowering the tone of your voice. The way you manipulate the sounds that come out of your mouth and the words you choose definitely help set tone. If it's a light, merry day, you are not going to be describing it as, "It is a wonderful, merry day, and everyone is having fun. The children are laughing, and the women are smiling, and men are just horny." I don't know what men would be if they were happy. Anyway, the point is, using your voice creates a certain amount of tone. Using words creates a certain amount of tone, and what type of words you use to create happiness, sadness, depression, those are words that are coming out of your vocabulary. Do not try and use words you don't understand. If there is a word that you come across in a book, if you are reading, Murray, I hope you're listening, if you are reading, then, and you don't understand it, go and learn about it. Go and try and understand it. If there is a word that is used in a film and you don't understand it, add it to your dictionary. The more words you have, the better the tone is that you can describe. But my main point about tone and language is about your body language. So often I find that GMs just sit there and they talk and they read their book and they do this and that and the next thing. They don't adopt the posture of the thing that they are describing. If they have a terrified peasant who's furtive and speaks in short gasps because everything that is around them is causing them to panic and stutter a little bit because they're so terrified of this thing that was in the woods. So by using your body language, you can really help create a sense of tone. If it's a casual evening and everyone is having fun and it's a grand event, use grand body language. Stretch out to make the sense of just how big this event is. Body language is so important, especially because a lot of this game is played seated. So how do you convey that? Use your hands, use your face, use your mouth, use the shape of your words. If you are being heroic, and the way you want to be heroic is you fill your chest with air and you puff it out nice and full. You use your ribs to breathe in and out, and you're just sitting straight up because you are being heroic. If you are a heroic king and you want to impart a sense of majesty, a sense of importance in this scene, slow your tone down a little bit. Use bigger, more opulent words to describe the scene of a king bowing down in front of his queen, presenting this long-lost sword. Again, an example of body language, tone, the words I'm using, the way I'm using my voice. All of that is language. So language is a very powerful tool. What's next, you might ask? Well, I'm going to save one which I think you might find quite unusual for last. The next one that we look at, before we get on to the last one, is the setting. Now, you don't have to be crazy like me and paint your entire games room to look like a dungeon and then stick up stuff all over the place. Not all of us have the luxury of doing that. But we all do have the luxury of controlling the light that's in this room that you're playing in. Maybe it's by adding an extra light stand or by removing a light stand. If you want to play a dark horror, do this kind of lighting where the light is beneath you so that it creates these weird, ominous shadows. If it's a happy scene, have lots of light. If you can't control the light, well, then perhaps you can control the rest of the atmosphere. And you can't see them now, but I've just finished installing speakers throughout this entire room so that I can play music during my sessions. Music that I control through modern day technology, but which I use to manipulate the tone of the scene. And soundtracks are great, and I think I've handled soundtracks before in a previous episode, so go and look for that. But you can collect them. You can pick them up for practically nothing these days if you buy the good old-fashioned CDs. Those of you who use Mac, I'm afraid you don't have CD players anymore, so you're going to have to ask someone who's got a real computer to copy the files onto your iPod or iPad or iThing. So, Music can set your tone. Lighting can set your tone. And don't be afraid to say to your players, listen, we are playing a truly disgusting campaign where you are going into the sewers. I'm providing the snacks. Go out to the shop, buy some food coloring, and grab that packet of crisps or whatever it is that you guys are going to be munching on and mix it up a little bit. There is nothing wrong with using props and then handing over to the players that bowl of chips that's got maybe the dip mixed in with the chips, but the whole thing's colored blood red. Now you must eat these chips. Now you must have this, or now you must do that. So don't think that there is anything wrong with using props. Serve drinks in wine glasses next time rather than in mugs. And perhaps instead of serving beer or Coca-Cola, try and find something that's more appropriate to the scene. If you're in a sci-fi setting, try and find soft drinks that are totally weird colors and add that to your stock. Again, just to enhance the sense of the scene. So your setting can be very important. And music is critical to choose. Avoid anything with lyrics in it, because the moment it's got lyrics, your tone is shattered. Your players will either know the lyrics or they'll start listening to the lyrics, or heaven forbid, they'll start singing along with them. So avoid lyrics, use soundtracks, classical music, that kind of stuff. And again, tone specific. And there are movies for every type of tone, so you have no excuse for not finding the right piece of music. And then finally, how many of you have thought of using dice to set tone? How do you use dice to set the tone? How would you use dice to make something happy? How would you use dice to make something horrific? How would you use dice to make something sad? Well, dice are a point of unknown, aren't they? They are this random chaos factor. But as the GM, you can control how that random chaos is interpreted. If the players fail a roll and it's a sad scene, have the fingers reaching out to catch the fallen hero. Have them make an acrobatics check or a reflex skill point save or a whatever, and talk about just how close the fingers are coming. Speak about how the other hand, which has reached back to keep them steady, is losing grip. Make them make a strength check. Make them feel every single moment and talk about what the other person on the other side is doing. Roll those dice, sense motive or perception or psychology or whatever it is. Get them to understand that the other person is terrified and desperate to be saved. And then have them slip into the abyss. The dice have helped you make that so much more visceral. The players have been desperate to roll those successful numbers. But if you are working those numbers and you're making sure that, yes, they succeed, and when they succeed, they touch the fingertips, just the fingertips, make another roll, and then the fingertips slip out because they've failed, because things have now changed. The dice, even the dice are against this successful save. The dice are making it sad. And when it's frantic and things are going, have them roll the dice, have them roll more dice, roll an attack, roll an defense, roll an attack, roll an defense. This thing is just hitting you, pounding you, keep going, make another roll, another roll, another roll. You're dead. The dice have allowed you to make it frantic, to make those players just scrabbling to throw their dice as much as they can. It's the dice. So you can use the dice to make your tone feel amazing. So dice are really, really, really powerful. Think about that. Think about it the next time you get characters to roll dice. And do not watch the April Fool's video that we made on dice. That didn't go down well. Finally, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, should you change tone in a single setting or in a single session? My belief is absolutely. It is the juxtaposition of tone that creates contrast and that will help enhance the different tones that you're setting. If you are going for a horrific scene where there are these dark things just crawling out of the walls and psychologically abusing the players with visual imagery that's just pouring into their characters' heads. Have that going on for a while. Just keep pumping, keep pushing, keep that dark, menacing, foreboding horror element. And then, as the characters push the door open, have one of them fart. It breaks the tension. Have one of them burp. Have one of them step on a rubber duck. The humor breaks that tension for a moment and lets everyone go, oh, really? You had to do that now? And then you cut off one of their heads with an axe from the axe murderer behind them. The tone shifts just like that, and it makes it more horrific because you are so relaxed. So by playing with your tone, having a majestic scene followed by a sad scene, and then after that a scene of reverie, of perhaps of reflection upon the scene, helps make it more poignant. But don't keep it depressed for very long, because we are trying to escape. Yes, we need it to make sure that that story remains true to ourselves and true to being a proper story. But then have a light moment. Introduce the funny old character who makes inappropriate remarks, or literally just some good fortune falls upon the characters. So I hope this is going to help you to reevaluate how you use tone in your game to just lift it out of the ranks of sitting around a table and put it into that warm little campfire that's around in the fantasy world, or whatever the case might be that you're in, and let you really experience a different level of gaming. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button preferably, and until next time, I wish you all the very best of gaming.